That's sweet. That's Devin. All right, we're getting there. And I think we are live on YouTube now. Yay. And good morning, everybody. And that's sweet. That's Devin. Make sure. All right. Close that off. And so you don't hear me repeating myself. I know I'm great, but I don't have to repeat myself. All right. So good morning, Bruce. Good morning, everybody. So grateful to have you all here.
Grateful to be here.
Um, I don't know what's going on with you, Bruce. Anything interesting?
Um, it's mostly same old, same old.
Oh, I love that. You know what? Better to be same old than to be new disaster every day.
Well, it really the only disaster that's ongoing is permutations of the same tiny mad idea, right?
Exactly.
That's
It's constant
the
belief
only
of
constant in the dream is that it's all insane, just varying perspectives of it.
yeah. And it's like it seems like it's all different, but it's not. It's all the same always. There's that's what's so crazy about it. We think, oh, this is a different problem. No, it's the same problem. Just wearing a different outfit. But in reality, there's nothing different.
Yep. Nothing new under the sun, as they say, right?
Yep. SSDD. Same stuff, different day. Uh, that's what they say anyway. So Bruce and I are reading Absence from Felicity, the story of Helen Schuckman and her scribing of A Course in Miracles by Dr. Kenneth Wapnick, PhD. And we are getting very near the end. Yeah.
Sounds like what they said on Sergeant Pepper's too. Getting very
Oh,
near
there's a
the
little
end.
heart club band. Um, so we're in chapter 18, Helen's Final Months and Requiem. And I'm going to ask you to read. My voice is a little
Oh, that's fine.
dodgy today.
Okay.
I will read, but might as well take advantage of you being here.
Sure. Be happy to. Yeah, I have us beginning of chapter 18, which starts on page 493 of the print version I have, which like you say, we're getting really close to the end. Yours shows 96%, and the last page that's got the content of itself is 511. So we've got maybe what's that 18 pages left to go. So yeah, we're getting really close. In fact, I've been trying to see if I can get a PDF to MP3 app going so that I can listen to Ken's biography at least once before we start reading it. I've read parts of it, but I do a lot more listening than reading these days when I'm out walking or whatever. So
So do you have Chrome? The
yeah.
browser Chrome? Chromer. Chromer has one of those that they just put it on, it's new.
Oh, okay.
So and it will read your text out loud for you.
Oh, okay. Oh,
Yeah.
cool. All right. So I just have to upload it to Chrome.
Well, yeah, just do the Chrome browser and look for the reading app, and I mean it's
Okay.
just right there.
I might
So
give that a try. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. Um, yeah, that might do it. Okay, I'll try that. Shall I pick up where we left off then?
Yes.
Okay. So chapter 18, Helen's final months and requiem. There's a full page of Ken's commentary, actually several pages, it looks like. Yeah, until we get to, yeah, in fact, then that's the epilogue after that. Okay. Um, Returning now to our chronological view of Helen's life, we come to her final months in 1980 and 1981. It did not require a trained eye to observe the continuation of Helen's physical and emotional deterioration. Aside from its obvious effects on Helen, her worsening condition succeeded in isolating her from practically all of her friends. I can think of two people in particular, both students of A Course in Miracles and very fond of Helen, who became so upset over seeing her as she was that they were compelled abruptly to curtail their visits. In parentheses, one had actually traveled quite a long distance to see her. Okay, the discrepancy between the Helen they knew, impeccably groomed and socially appropriate, wise and helpful, not to mention the one who was Jesus's close companion, the scribe of A Course in Miracles, and the Helen they were now experiencing, physically disheveled, preoccupied with her own disturbing thoughts, and totally unresponsive to anyone besides herself, was so glaring as to be disturbing, painful, and even frightening. Well, I think that's probably, again, true of all of us when we compare our real self to our ego self.
Well, and I just stopping to look at that. Oh my gosh, you're not who you used to be, so I'm going to stop visiting you.
Right. That's every ego response is that
Wow.
I'm I'm at the mercy of the form instead of recognizing the true content in our eternal mind, huh?
Yeah. And a
Spirit.
reflection of how she experienced herself as well, because
Yeah.
it appears that maybe she didn't see herself as worthy of being loved and visited.
Yeah. And that's
So
every ego self-assessment, isn't it?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So such a great opportunity for healing.
Uh-huh.
So just a reminder to myself, even if the disease looks terrible, uh, don't abandon your friends. Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead. I'm judging these people, but for something I might do myself. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and to be willing to be tolerant and forgiving is, at the forefront of the course's practice, isn't it? Just to just realize, oh, well, if I'm afraid of what I've identified with, I'm going to project that like crazy, and that's what we do. Uh, Not only the elderly, but the sick, but anyone that disagrees with, um, our beliefs and our values, that becomes a justification for exclusion and shunning and all that kind of stuff, right? Whether it's physically and or psychologically. Yeah. Okay, so I will read on. Ken continues, says, I've already indicated during her final year, Helen never left her appointment apartment except to go to the doctor or hospital. We did not know it until much later, but she was already experiencing the emotional and physical effects of pancreatic cancer. Incidentally, all of the malignant forms of the disease, uh, this is the most, quote, desirable, unquote, as it generally carries with it the least pain. On the other hand, because of the location of the end of the pancreas behind the liver, the cancer almost always goes undetected until the tumor has grown to such an extent that there's little that can be done for it. Often the tumor's growth impinges on the liver, interfering with that vital organ's functioning. This developing liver malfunction thus can become, on the level of the body, the cause of emotional and physical distress and then ultimately death, as it was in Helen's case. Okay. And then the footnote, uh, when at the level of the body, Ken puts, A Course in Miracles, of course, teaches that all distress is the result of unforgiveness, a choice made in the mind, seeming appearances to the contrary. Okay, so Ken's quick to point out to not deny the physical, but always to remember that the metaphysical, we can't get too far from the metaphysics, as he says, if we want to be peaceful. Okay, he continues, that final year was a difficult one, especially for Louis, as Helen increasingly and demandingly focused her attention on him. The dependency that at varying times in her life had been placed on her mother, Bill, and more recently me, Helen now transferred to Louis, as mentioned earlier in the book. He could not leave the apartment without Helen's becoming quite upset. They eventually worked out an arrangement whereby Louis would be able to go out for periods each day, while I would usually remain by Helen's side, along with a day nursing companion, and Evelyn, Helen, and Louis's very faithful housekeeper, the successor to Georgia. During this final period, virtually nothing of any consequence would ever be spoken between Helen and me regarding A Course in Miracles. Whereby in the past, Helen and I would regularly pray together, talk about Jesus, or speak about what I was doing related to the Course, we now, with very rare exceptions, discussed any of these things. It was clear that Helen was preparing herself for death, although we still labored under the assumption that she would die at the age of 72, Excuse me. D- um, Despite our past experiences of Helen's unreliability regarding specific predictions, the number 72 had seemed to be so clear and certain for her. Therefore, even though the end came quickly, up until the final day or two, I still felt Helen would hold out for several more months on into the summer of 1981. Bill would call her every day from California, but their conversations would be brief and innocuous as they had been for quite some time. Their relationship had lost all expression of the emotional volatility of the past and had fallen into the ritualistic adherence to form that nonetheless still reflected the inner connection, however limply it did so. Pardon me. I had long abandoned, long ago abandoned any thought that on the level of Helen's conscious mind, there would be any healing regarding her relationship with Bill, Jesus, or the Course. It therefore came as no surprise to me that when any of these subjects would arise, there would be a noticeable absence of any positive expression on Helen's part, to put it mildly. Thus, Helen's conflict between her two selves never appeared to be resolved. And he's got appeared in italics there for emphasis. Symbolized above all by her relationship with Jesus, the conflict that had raged for years, now in the final period of her life, again lapsed into the seeming oblivion of inattention or outright forgetfulness. However, the internal dis-ease and lack of peace, the inevitable result of any unresolved conflict, remained with her, even though there were no longer any overt emotional expressions of this conflict. And yet, though it did not appear to be, again, appear in italics, and I think I find it really helpful when reading the course, and certainly Ken's writing, um, to note when the word seems or appears, or related words that kind of hint that appearances are part of the illusion or hallucination that we're all having, that makes space-time seem to be real, appear to be real. So it's good to pay attention to those, because I think a lot of those are very intentional in the course. Okay, the following account of her death provides the final punctuation to this wonderfully inspiring, if not somewhat sad, story of her life. I might mention that while this resolution occurred at Helen's death, it need not have waited that long. Physical death, as the Course teaches, is not the answer to any problem. The reader may recall the opening line from the fragment Helen asked me to insert in the text. There is a risk of thinking death is peace. And that's from chapter 27, section 7, paragraph 10, sentence 2. Or from, in my version, it's text page 541, which is presumably the first or second edition. Yeah. On Sunday, February 8th, 1981, I kept a long-standing speaking engagement in upstate New York. While Helen's condition was deteriorating, we did not suspect how imminent her death actually was. I called during the day and forget now if I had even spoken to her. Upon my return in the evening, I saw Helen and Louis and decided to stay overnight. Helen would constantly cry out "Louis" in her delirium, and I thought I should remain close at hand. I believe there was also a nurse's aide present. I left early the next morning to see some patients. My last memory of Helen's conscious state was my saying goodbye, realizing she did not even know who I was. Closing the door behind me, I was to hear her call out "Louis" for the last time. Her condition remained the same throughout the morning, and I left my apartment for a luncheon appointment uptown. When I returned home, there was a message on my answering machine that Louis was taking Helen to the emergency room of New York Hospital, where I met them. Helen had already lapsed into a coma. This was about 3 in the afternoon, as I recall, and Louis and I remained with Helen as they brought her to her room. I had a class on the course that evening, which I canceled, recognizing now that Helen's death was near and that she might not survive the night. Louis and I remained until around 8 p.m., and Helen's condition appeared to be stabilizing. On the recommendation of the medical staff, believing that she would most likely live a while longer, at least until morning, Louis chose to return home. I accompanied him, only to have the hospital call about 3 hours later, shortly after 11, that Helen had indeed died. We returned to the hospital, and Helen was still in her bed. Her face had a remarkably quiet expression of peace, so different from the tortured disquiet we had grown so accustomed to seeing these many months. I suddenly recalled what Helen had shared with me on several occasions, a thought that always brought her great comfort. Jesus had told her that when she died, he would come for her personally. Who can really know what was in her mind in those closing instants? Yet her peaceful face was unmistakable, and spoke convincingly for an experience of knowing at the very end that her beloved Jesus had indeed kept his promise as she had kept hers. The priestess had returned home. Wow. Yeah, I think when we think about, our time in this world on this planet, and what we think of as our space-time reality, and think about you know, what's it all about, Alfie? So to speak, what is this amounted to? And ultimately, um, it's not about measurement, but about if I can assess that if I've learned that I've never left perfect oneness, that's a lifetime well spent, And I think we're all learning that in different ways. I mean, we don't always see that, with visible evidence of that, but everyone is learning one way or another, what works and what doesn't, through what would seem to be massive experimentation, but the course reminds us that, it's a happy inevitability that we will return to where we came from, which is an awareness of pure non-duality, perfect peace, perfect innocence, eternal serenity, and total inclusion. So, it would seem that Helen may have had that experience based on what Ken just said.
Well, and does it really matter what experience she had while she
No,
was
it really doesn't. It really doesn't. Yeah.
when it was over, it was
It
over.
it doesn't matter at all. How can anything that is about the behavior or expression in a world that we're reminded over and over again is of our imagination, how could that have a bearing on our real being? It can't possibly.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, it
The,
had to be great relief for her to be gone
yeah, yeah.
after that.
And
So
the only thing that can be helpful is if it reminds us of the choice that we have in our mind to choose against the insanity of the ego, and allow the sanity of our real awareness to resume where we left off.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. And so, that this kind of gives me a little bit of a beware of looking at another person and determining in your mind what their state of mind
Oh,
is, or
absolutely, absolutely. And
have them
and we do
going,
that so frequently. I think that's why there's so much emphasis on the course on judgment and
yeah,
noticing grievances and condemnations and issues that we have with everyone and everything. That's our way of keeping the separation real, isn't it? And
yeah.
and keep
It's our
pushing
judgments that make it real. And what
pushing
I see.
yeah,
Sorry.
pushing peace away, and having um the if we have that habit, it takes a long time to turn it around to where we to look at all those obstacles to peace, and see, wow, there's so many different ways that I've denied the peace that is not only my birthright but everyone's birthright and inheritance. And yeah, so we need to be really patient with ourselves
Yeah,
and
yeah,
gentle.
because we don't know. And you know what? Here's I only bring this up because it's interesting to me. Okay, as a story. All right,
Mm.
my birthday is February 9th. And I always had, ever since I read this the first time and recognized that Helen passed away on my birthday, and other people passed away. My sister committed
Oh,
suicide on my birthday.
oh, interesting.
You know, lots of people actually. I could go through a list of people in my life that died on my birthday,
Hmm.
and so I have always had like a, kind of like my birthday is cursed. In fact, we don't even celebrate my birthday anymore because my granddaughter's, the father of my great granddaughter, he was killed in a car wreck on my birthday,
Hmm.
and so there's no party on my birthday ever because it's the day Ruben died. So, I always have had like a little bit of a, why? And then one day when I was riding with John Mundy, we were going from Boone, North Carolina to the airport in Charlotte. Anyway, I was telling John that, and John told me, "Oh no, Helen didn't die on the 9th. She died on the 8th." I was like, "Really?" I, I mean, he was like absolutely certain she had died on the 8th. And I don't know if he said that to me so that I would like feel better about it, or if he truly thought that it was the 8th. But it was very clear to me that what Ken said uh, was that she died. She went in the hospital, and the next day she died, which was on the 9th. Anyway, I
Mhm.
just thought that was interesting. I don't know why John would tell me that, but um, he was trying to make me feel better, I'm sure. Uh, I don't know. And it could have been that they were wrong about the date.
And we
So,
read so much into a, alleged reality that is
yeah,
totally fabricated if we actually pay attention to what the course is saying.
I know. It's like, oh,
Right?
I have no birthday.
Yeah,
There was no day.
exactly, exactly. Yeah,
So,
I actually that I was thinking about a couple of things come to mind as you said that. One is um, my sister, and my brother are far more into genealogy and family history than I. Um, my sister, in fact, she might be there right now, but she was going to visit the house that she and I we were like a year and a half apart. Were when we were babies in Texas, and and we were both born. Well, I don't I was, but I'm not sure. I think she was too, actually, at the an Air Force base in Bryan, Texas, which is no longer there. So like to return to the place you were born, it might be instead of a hospital or or whatever maternity ward, it may now be a housing tract or a park or who knows what. But so you can't go home as the uh, saying goes on the level of form, but we can always go home. And in fact, we never left home in truth. The other thing that came to mind as you were talking about people who died on your birthday, oh gosh, maybe 5 or 6 years ago now, I hadn't heard from my first wife, who was really hadn't kept in touch with much at all after a year or three after we parted company. And even though she was still really good friends with my mom and would send her Christmas cards long after she stopped corresponding with me, things like that. But um, I thought, well, gee, it was getting near Christmas about, I don't know, 5, 6 years ago, and I just Googled her name and found her name in the obituaries, and she had gone back to her maiden name, so the people that she knew had no way of knowing, who she had been married to, and and she apparently had passed on my birthday. Gosh, I guess about a decade ago now, give or take a couple of years. And at first thought, I thought, oh, well, is that the same kind of thought running through my head. It's like, well, is that way her, a final insult to me? Or or maybe it's a tribute. Maybe it's just like a tip of the hat and saying, hey, thanks for what we shared in truth. Because she was a student of metaphysics, and she really didn't get into the course much, but it was really our relationship ended about the time that I discovered the course. And well, we both knew about it, but I don't know if she read it much. But it was when I actually flipped open the books and actually started reading rather than just seeing, oh, it looks pretty religious and put it back on the shelf kind of thing. But anyway, but yeah, that was kind of an interesting experience for me to realize, well, there's once again the two the two thought systems. I can see it as an insult, which is what of course every ego would do, or I could see that as an opportunity to say, oh, um, well, more importantly, it doesn't really mean anything. But if I wanted to see it in a more positive light, I could certainly see that as at least a forgiveness opportunity, and perhaps even like a little send off, saying, "Hey, thanks for all the learning we did," kind of thing. Yeah,
Yeah, and I think what it does is it re-emphasizes our interconnectedness.
absolutely, absolutely.
And
Yeah,
that and the whole idea of time and space having any sort of meaning, the only meaning that it actually has is that to point out or to show us that we are one and we are interconnected and not.
yeah, yeah.
So yeah, I love that. And so uh while that probably didn't ruin your birthday and you
No,
probably
no,
still get to
no.
have a party, I'm just kidding. I feel now when it's my birthday, I feel bad for, basically for my granddaughter because she's still, 6 years later, still, really brokenhearted about this whole thing. So it's kind of hard for me to say, let's have a party, but probably should anyway, because
Or do like the Irish do, is the wake is a celebration,
yeah, exactly, exactly.
right?
And
And that kind of brings to mind, there's a wonderful fellow course student named Rosemary who passed this past week, and she was very frequently posted wonderful things from Ken Wapnick on the School for A Course in Miracles Facebook page, and 2 or 3 weeks ago I noticed, well, she's not posting much anymore, and then I learned from her sister, who's also an avid course student, that she had passed, and then just watched a course that class that she facilitated, and also she was in one of Ken's classes, and she asked a question at the beginning of the video. It was an excellent question, and about uh, you know a profound question, and the smile on her face, not only in the Ken video, but also in the class that she facilitated, and just the calm gentleness of her demeanor. It was like, I after and she had a huge library of Ken's work, and her sister Abby was saying that she really, um, that was what she immersed herself in, and I can relate to that. And I was thinking, well, that's a good reminder that that it's not Ken doing it for her, obviously, because it's our choice, but that if we continue in Ken's footsteps, metaphorically, not physically, but in the mind, we're headed toward that kind of peace, um, that's a happy inevitability, and that's really, so I have very very fond memories of uh, two times when she attended a school, like a conference kind of a thing in Colorado. And also, in many occasions being in the Zoom meetings, and so it's like, that's a good reminder that we never are gone. We never were here, so how can we go anywhere? And B, that um, the beauty and the kindness and the serenity that we share, even without word spoken, is really, as psychologists have been saying for decades, that's the bulk of what we're communicating, and animals pick up on that, so the tone of the voice conveys a great deal of that, but it's really minds are joined, and all those things that seem to happen physically are just a reflection of that.
exactly, exactly.
Yeah.
And that's it, is that anything that reminds us of the reality of our relationship is really uh that's the only point of it, is
Hmm.
to help us remember that we're one. There's no separation and nothing has changed. So yeah.
Nothing happened.
I love that. And was that wasn't Rosemary that worked at the academy, was it?
No, no,
Oh,
uh, Rosemary is one word and not Rosemary.
oh, okay,
Yeah,
okay.
no, I did
All
different
right.
Rosemary.
Yeah, okay. So I was
Nope,
like, what?
nope,
So
nope, nope.
okay, yeah, so that's good. I I met her when I went out to the academy, and she did, I think she did one section of our workshop.
Okay.
Jeff Siebert did some of it also.
Yeah,
Uh,
I met Jeff, but I didn't get to meet Rosemary.
yeah,
Rosemary at the time.
we got to have them both, so that was
Yeah,
a
oh, that's neat. That's neat.
pleasure. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you want me to read? I'll
Sure,
continue.
sure.
Okay. So Ken resumes. As I stood over Helen's dead body in the hospital, I knew she was free at last. And different lines from the aforementioned Requiem poem, originally written for Sister Regina's mother, went through my mind, and I gave thanks. The complete poem is as follows. This might be a great thing, maybe if you have to officiate a funeral or something. This beautiful poem by Helen. Um, you came but for a while. When Jesus called, you were content to go. For who would stay to watch the dreary cycle of the nights turn coldly gray with each return of day? This world was not your home. Would God allow his child to wander long without a home, which he himself makes bright? Your tired eyes closed gratefully when he said, come. You have forgot all this. All thoughts that hurt, all sorrow, all regret have ceased to be in your remembrance. He who called to you has loosened all your chains and set you free. Because I love you, I would have you go. Because I love him, I can scarcely weep. Because he loves you, glory goes with you, and in that glory you but seem to sleep. He came in mercy. Let me give him thanks. You stayed with us until you saw him smile and tell you it is finished. He will come for me that way in just a little while. It is for this I wait, in certainty that he who made the stars will not forget. I will be glad to see him smile at me, or if he choose, to wait a little yet.
Mhm.
Very sweet.
Mhm.
Louis and I returned to his apartment, where I called Bill, Judy, and other friends and family. As I have already mentioned, Louis lost no time in having me remove from the apartment copies of the course and Helen's Catholic medals and rosaries that very night. Can you imagine that? That very night, he was like, "Get this stuff out of here."
Wow.
Like, that must have been unbearable to him. Uh, wow, that's I don't even want to imagine. So Helen's funeral was 2 days later on February 11th, the Catholic feast of Our Lady of Lourdes, commemorating the Blessed Mother's appearance to Bernadette, a fitting date given Helen's feelings about Mary and her childhood experience at Lourdes. The people assembled at this traditional Jewish funeral roughly fell into two categories: those who were students of the course, and those consisting of family, friends, and colleagues, almost all of whom knew absolutely nothing about Helen's other life, let alone the existence of A Course in Miracles.
Hmm.
I delivered the eulogy in such a soft voice, I was told, that many of the large crowd had trouble hearing me. Louis wanted me to omit any mention of the course, or anything Christian for that matter, and yet he wished me to speak of Helen's strong spiritual nature. To the surprise of many, therefore, I spoke of Helen's religious devotion, describing how that led her to help all those she believed God had sent to her.
Well, that's
As
describing the course then.
yeah, exactly.
Maybe not in direct fashion, but certainly think of how many millions of people Helen's and Bill's devotion has helped,
Yeah,
including us reading this.
yeah. And it also says you don't have to mention Jesus. You don't have to just know the principles and
Mhm.
actually live the principles of the course.
Yep.
And that's really all you need. So
As the Beatles said, all you need is love.
that's it. So
Or letting
so
go of fear.
letting go of fear. So Ken says, as deftly as I could, I tried to describe her spiritual commitment to God and his work that more properly belonged to the Course in Jesus. My principal focus was the degree to which Helen had dedicated herself to helping others, a fact to which the great majority sitting in the chapel could gratefully attest.
Mm.
Yeah, so they all knew, but
Hmm.
they didn't know the reason. They didn't know you know,
And I'm sure all the people that had known Helen's work with the course could relate to it as well. So, a tip of the hat to Ken's letting spirit flow through him as always,
yeah,
or at least as usual,
as
what we know.
usual.
Yeah.
So Ken continues, but my task that day, as even in this book, was really an impossible one. For how truly to describe this remarkable woman, whose very human self could not ultimately conceal the love of the transhuman self that so faithfully was allowed to flow through her hands.
Mm.
Heaven's gift of love, through the union of Jesus and Helen, thus became immortalized in A Course in Miracles, the three books for which the world will forever be grateful. And so, whatever words I actually use to close the eulogy, my heart was instead singing these to Helen, based upon Horatio's tender farewell to his beloved Hamlet. Now, I can just hear the music in the background. Do when you listen to Ken's recordings. Now cracks the noble heart. Good night, sweet mother, and flights of angels sing thee to thy rest.
Mm. Nice.
No, so
I thinking about uh, where did he describe it? It, um, that's a long sentence. That's the first sentence in that paragraph, but which ends with Helen's very human self could not ultimately conceal the love of the transhuman capital S self that so faithfully was allowed to flow through her hands. And that imagery, since it's hard for us to really to abstract ideas, and even especially the idea that we're just a mind and nothing but mind, and that the physicality of our experience is all made up. When I was working on the FIP website, that's been a part of a decade ago, I think, give or take. And one of the things that Tam wanted me to put in the graphic on the left sidebar of the Foundation for Inner Peace website, which is acim.org. I just put that in the chat. If you scroll down on any page, that kind of decorative copper sidebar that has little maroon accents and diamonds and things. If you scroll down, you'll see a pair of hands, and that's actually a photo of Judy's hands, but uh, Tam Morgan thought that that should also represent Helen's hands in the scribing of the course. So anyway, just kind of a little aside, a little backstory about the FIP website.
we're gonna go look at that.
Okay.
I think that is one of the most beautiful things. I love that.
Yeah, you might
That
have to make your page a little wider.
okay,
Uh, so,
all
or
right.
maybe just zoom out, perhaps.
Yeah, maybe
Yeah, if that does it,
we
because
should
you're not
take
going to get the sidebar until you get to a certain
they
page.
kind of redid it a little here. Why is that not doing that?
Well, if you probably have it zoomed in so that you can read the text better, but if you zoom way out, the
Yeah.
sidebar should show up.
What about if I go to another page? No, that doesn't do it.
Well, anyway, how about if I share my screen?
You share, yeah, you show us because
Okay,
I want
okay,
to
I'll show
see.
you. Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
It says this will stop your sharing. Okay,
that's
so okay,
fine.
okay. So I will now share what I'm seeing. Um,
Because that's one of the I love that. I think it's so gorgeous. Oh,
so,
I know because I have it so big. You're right.
yeah. So what you're seeing on the left, that whole strip that takes about, oh, maybe 12% or something like that of the screen, um, is that kind of copper with all the little wavy patterns in it and some red decorations. Um, there's the hands, and then there's a little bit of script writing that's just above the hands. That's just actually some of the image, a scan of some of the writing that of Helen's shorthand. Um,
Oh,
so that's what that represents, is
wow.
just a little tiny sample of Helen's scribing, and those, even though those were Judy's hands, but she certainly had a hand, pun intended, in getting the course of the world. So she was the hand model, but it was really meant to represent Helen's hands, I believe is what Tam had said when we put that together.
Wow.
Yeah,
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 that's one of the things I recognize now why it wasn't showing up on mine because I do have it like big so
yeah,
that
yeah,
people
which
can
is
read it.
perfectly appropriate, and it's really just more decorative. However, if you click on the hands, it will take you to about the scribing.
Oh,
Yeah,
ooh,
and then if you click on and then all the whole story and the whole shebang, and there's tons of history on this website. I don't know how many people know how much is really on this site. When I was first working at it, I wanted to have a complete site map that had every single page on it, but I was voted down. But if you spend time, you will discover there's a lot on the site. Since I don't know how many people are watching as well as listening, but I'll just show you some of the things that are on here um, while we're at it. So, for
might as well
example,
while we're here.
yeah, okay. So let's go to about. Here's timeline. So it gives, what's, when the scribing began, and all the different uh, versions and so forth, the different translations, and I think it's they've up to yeah, 2021, the web edition. So it's been out for 4 years. So anyway, so there's that. But if you go to, you can use the magnifying glass, which is in the upper right, and just put in, type in history or historical. Let's do that because there's a lot of stuff here. Here we go, historical material. And you can use either the search function, which is that little copper magnifying glass in the upper right, um, or you can go to the site map, which is very abbreviated actually. Um, but anyway, this will show you some of the historical material, and here's some of the archives. Um, so this is the autobiography of Helen and Bill in their entirety are here, um, and also just some really good stuff about the scribes, a photo wall, a whole bunch of great photos. Probably a lot of you've seen over the years, but there's a whole bunch there. Some articles that came out around the time the course was published. Editing history and the publishing history are both very lengthy art and really worth reading articles. Interviews. Um, a New Realities interview. That was how I first learned about the course, was the New Realities interview with Judy Skutch. That my mom had that magazine back in the late 70s, I believe. And let's see what it says here. When did that come out? 77. Yep. Uh-huh. So, and this shows the cover with Judy on the cover of that magazine. Because I remember I read that, my mom read it, and it's like, oh, that sounds pretty interesting. And she got the books, and I flipped when she got them. I kind of flipped through them. It's like, looks kind of religious, and I set them aside. Let's see, news clippings, photos. There's more photos. So there's there's lots of cool photos. Early years of Helen and Bill, and later trustees. Um, I'll show one thing that I actually have yours truly on at the bottom of this. Um, so you see photos of Helen and Bill and Ken and Judy and Bob Scutch and Jerry Jampolsky and John Mundy, and a whole bunch of familiar names like Dr. Bob, um, and people you probably heard of over the years, and some that I hadn't heard of. And you know, even though Ken came along early, his first picture doesn't appear until I guess here's one with Ken, Bob Draper, Ken and Kathleen Draper, Gloria and Ken, Edgar Mitchell, uh, Whitson, and Lee Coit, who gave a wonderful workshop near South Lake Tahoe that I attended back in the early 80s. Let's see. And yeah, a bunch of names of people who've been around the course a while will remember some of these folks. Um, I think you knew Kathy Scott Perry or know her, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
sure. I
yeah.
do.
And since they wanted photos from that era, this is me with a beard toward the bottom. And then Ron Groh, who's at the Rocky Mountain Miracle Center, he was telling me that he'd been studying for a long time, so I added his photo to the bottom there.
Oh, that's very cool.
Yeah,
That's
and but there's a bunch of stuff there. I mean, just not just if you just go to resources, there's tons of stuff. Study groups, news, annotations. I think the annotation is one of those underappreciated things that we use it all the time. But now with the web edition, it makes it so powerful because you can essentially um, use a quote from the web edition. Which let me just go to the web edition real quick here. And that's my homepage. So if I put in happy, let's say, and to heal is to make happy. So if I grab this quote, and you may have done this too, if I copy this and if I paste it somewhere, it'll grab the quote and the annotation and a link back to this sentence in the web edition, and I can paste it in an email and a website and social media. And I can also create an image if I want to make an image of that. I can go through, and I've been doing this um, for years, but I think around March or April, I thought, well, why not just take a quote from today's workbook lesson and post it on Facebook? So I've been doing that for in several different Facebook groups for I don't know, at least half a year, if not more. And but it's really, and you can pick the background image and also pick the font. And anyway, it's just really cool. But
yeah,
but
very
what's
cool.
what's cool about the annotation is the annotation works because of the way and a tip of the hat to Felix, who not only did the web edition, but he also implemented this annotation linkage, which when he mentioned it, when he and I were working on the website, was like, yes, that is so cool. And he pulled it off wonderfully. And so when you copy and paste a quote, and it doesn't have to be just a sentence, it can be a whole paragraph. It'll grab that and the correct annotation. It'll generate the correct annotation that links you back to that, and it'll highlight it when you click on the link and take you directly to that quote. And right now it's just in English, but in Spanish, but which is the two languages is pretty cool. But there's 27 others that when they get the funding to do will be added. There's a little a little plug for supporting Foundation for Inner Peace as well as for Foundation for A Course in Miracles, the two sister organizations. But anyway, so just since we were on this topic and we're kind of at a natural stopping point, I thought I'd mention how cool the web edition and how the annotation is really cool. And so it's a pretty amazing thing. Uh, and pretty and profoundly helpful because anybody in any of those 27 languages can read that sentence in uh, their language, and obviously it won't go to the other 25 languages that are extant just yet, but it it'll grab that, and if you paste it in social media, you can see where it is and then go to the corresponding annotation in the place in the books where those quotes occur, and have sentence for sentence the um, you know exact place without having to know about page numbers and additions and all that kind of stuff. So
That's beautiful. And I do that all the time. That
yeah, yeah,
like,
I figured you did.
yeah, yeah, and
Yeah.
because we read the course in these groups, we
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
recite and we read and we discuss, and
Yep.
we call the deep dive into the Course in Miracles.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're very our groups are very involved in studying, all the different things of the course. And
Yeah. Yeah.
so I
So,
love that.
so if you click on the magnifying glass, you get search and the sitemap. The search is at the top, and then right below it is the sitemap, which again is very abbreviated. But so, for example, in the translations,
Oh, I
there's
love.
all the different translations, and then the meet the translators page has videos from all the different translators and uh, and giving them examples of the course in their language, what they speaking it. It's there's a lot on this site. It's really, I mean, I thought, well, gee, because it was one of the easily the biggest site I'd ever worked on a decade ago, and I thought, oh gosh, this might take over a year. Well, it ended up taking 3 or 4
Over a year.
because of the design that Tam wanted it, and we kept fine tuning it, and and I kept saying, well, gee, I was apologizing it was taking so long. She said, don't worry about it, and because they were paying me for my time as well as some volunteer effort that I was doing as well, but I think it's such a worthy cause to support what they're doing because there's, like I say, there's still 24 languages that I think could be would be really beneficial to have in the web edition, and as well as all the audio versions that of which several are out now for the different languages, and the apps in the different languages, and so many different ways to convey what the course is saying. So anyway,
Yeah, and I'm excited because I got I didn't realize that it was on here, the Spanish version. I got it on Amazon, the Spanish version on Kindle. So because I'm learning to speak Spanish, and
excelente,
yeah.
muy
So
bueno. Yeah, I speak enough to be dangerous. Oh, I was going to share one more thing here. We still got a few minutes. Um, so let me go back here. One of the little fun little Easter egg thing. Well, obviously, this one here is the one that I was kind of like a you know, slap on the forehead kind of a moment when Tam said, there has to be a ticker tape. And she said, I don't know what it should have, but there needs to be a ticker tape. And that's where this wonderful little iridescent ribbon goes across and the scrolling text. And so, she was saying, well, I don't know what should be there, but there should be a ticker tape. And then we were looking at the analytics for the website and kind of very obviously what to still 99 point whatever percent of the people who visit the site go for is the daily workbook lesson. So it's like, okay, so we had just before the web edition came out, there was the entire workbook that has now been supplanted by the web edition that says the whole course. But this initially, if you click on the ribbon, it just goes right to today's lesson. Well, it now goes to the web edition, but previously it went to on the same website, the full lesson. So anyway, but the uh, the explanation for that, which is a lot of things, aren't super obvious because it was a very stylized, artsy site. But if I put ticker tape, I think I should be able to find it. Here we go. So I had fun making this alliteration here. So for the whoops, if you click on it, it will actually do that. But so for the calendar daily lesson, what you do is you tap the ticker tape text to take today's tutorial. So how's that for alliteration?
oh my gosh, you are so funny.
So they let me keep that.
That's hilarious, Bruce. Oh my
There
God,
were a number of suggestions that it was voted down, which is fine, but that one they let me keep. So anyway.
that's funny. Oh my
And then,
God.
of course, you want to go to today's lesson. You can just
Click
click that, or
go.
or you can put in the number and go, and you can also do that from a web edition too.
Yeah, and
Oh,
you don't
one
even have
what?
to put in the number when you go there. The today's lesson is already in there in
Yeah, yeah,
so you just have to click it.
yep. And then if you the little seeing eye when you hover over it, it lights up in the upper left.
Uh-oh.
Okay, so if you click on that, you get a random quote.
Oh my God.
a random lesson.
Oh, we're going to be playing with this today.
See, there's all kinds of Easter eggs. I put Easter eggs in the glossary edition too, which I'm actually working on because the plugin author, the WordPress plugin author for the glossary, um, for some reason that I'm working with them to figure out why the search function stopped working. Well, it's actually the expand and contract function that makes the search work because their search isn't quite working yet for a really large 200 plus glossary uh, page. But I got, the workaround was basically use the web browser's search function. Anyway, so you know what? I don't think we actually finished reading this chapter. I think
We
we have one.
did
We
actually.
did? We did?
Yeah,
Oh, yeah,
we
yeah, yeah,
did.
yeah, we did. And flights of,
Yeah, because
yes, we
because we're
did. We
going
did. Okay,
now
got it. Okay.
to
So what we have left for next week is the
the
epilogue. So
epilogue.
yeah,
The
that's right. Okay.
epilogue. Wow.
All righty. All
We
righty.
marked that page too real quick here.
Yeah, yeah.
So wow. So thank you, Bruce. Man, I appreciate you so
Oh,
much.
likewise,
And
likewise.
I keep wanting
And
to call, but I forget. So
well, let's pick a time and let's do that and get the acimgather.us site, shored up where we can because there's
yeah,
plenty of things that are low hanging fruit that we could do and we can take that offline. Yeah.
absolutely, absolutely. And
Yeah.
that's yeah. I appreciate you so much for your help with that. And
Oh,
uh,
likewise. And I know this isn't the only thing you do all week, every week.
I know
I
you're right.
haven't, I have hardly kept up at all. And I know you, not only just from our own weekly hour program on Saturday mornings, you simulcast that how many places now? I mean, what, three
Oh
or
yeah,
four?
there's like five. We have a
Five?
radio,
Oh my
we have
gosh. Oh my gosh. Yeah, yeah, okay.
Style Talk, we have the
Oh wow, that's
group, and
impressive.
we have
See,
the
I need to put that on the things that I announce to people and I'm far in arrears on that end. So let's make something soon. And before we start reading uh Ken's biography.
yeah, yeah.
Okay, yeah, let's do
Sounds
that.
good.
The next
Sounds
next few
good.
weeks. Let's just make some time, okay?
All right, sounds good, my brother. I love
Okay.
you. Thank you
Likewise.
so much,
Just
Bruce.
thank
And
you, Lynn, and have a wonderful, peaceful week, everyone. And looking forward to our next conversation.